Hi friends, welcome to Loved by Cacao. This is a home for all of us who love cacao, to share our stories, to elevate the voice of cacao through voices from all around the world. Here we will connect the threads of light that cacao is weaving between us, from heart to heart. Thank you for being here. You might like to make yourself a delicious cup of cacao to enjoy while you listen, to tune in with this sacred medicine. I am Pania, lover and facilitator of cacao, and I invite you to step in through the door to this cozy home. Come to sit on a cushion in this circle together, and may we allow ourselves to be here, to be loved by cacao. Welcome back to another episode of Loved by Cacao. Thank you so much for being here. It's always a big honor. And this one today is quite personal. And I'll be honest, straight off the bat, it feels a little vulnerable and edgy for me to share this one. So recently I sat down one afternoon at my cacao altar with tui birds singing outside the window. You can hear them sometimes as I'm talking. And I recorded this intimate episode for you. It starts off with a little update chat as if I'm leaving a voice note for a friend. And then after the updates, I open up and I share some of my own stories from some of my bigger life experiences, such as my confusing upbringing, being exposed to a very mixed bag of spirituality. And then I spoke about losing my mum in my 20s and going through a divorce in my 30s. I also delve into my own personal challenges around self-worth and self-expression. I share about my own healing journey and how at times I've truly found it really hard to know my way and to even know what I believe. So I share some of how I did come home to myself, and of course through it all how cacao has supported me in what became a journey of self-acceptance and self-love. And as I said, this one feels vulnerable, but I do wish to share it because these stories are stories my heart wants to share, and I'm really grateful and honoured if you listen to them. During this episode, I was drinking Arawaco cacao mixed with honey, cinnamon, and a touch of chili powder. This is a really special cacao grown in the mountains of Colombia and brought to us by Cacao Drinking Chocolate. If you'd like to experience it also, if you haven't already, you can go to flycacao.com. That's fly, Kakao.com. And if you're a first-time customer, you can get a 10% discount on your order with my code LOVEDBYCACAO. Those details are in the show notes, and I truly from my heart recommend this beautiful not-for-profit company because they're providing some of the very finest cacao you can buy, and I loved the way that this Arawaco goodness supported me in feeling relaxed enough to get vulnerable and personal in this episode. So I'd like to invite you to make a cup of cacao for yourself if you wish and tune in with my stories here. Imagine we're sitting together, cozy, relaxed, drinking and sharing from our hearts. So before we go further, let's take a moment to tune in with cacao, to tune in with what we're drinking and what we're doing here. So I invite you to take a pause, get comfy, take a breath. Let's take a nice deep breath into this moment. Becoming aware of your body as you breathe. becoming aware of the space you're sitting in or standing in. And let's become aware of the loving energy of cacao with us. Dear cacao, we ask your spirit of love and remembrance to please be here with us. We thank you for the enormous gifts you bring us. Thank you for your generosity, your nourishment. Thank you, thank you, thank you. My intention, dear cacao, is that we feel your love in our hearts through openness and deeper connection. May my words be of service to all who listen. Thank you, friends, for listening, and please enjoy your cacao and this very moment of now. Here we go. Hello, friends. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm in a very soft, gentle space right now, and I want to invite you into this soft, gentle space with me. And I want to share some personal stories and some cacao stories. I've just been sitting here with the beautiful Awako cacao from Cacao Drinking Chocolate. It comes from Colombia, and it's a really, really special one. And I've been very excited to receive this cacao for a while now. And I was able to order some recently, and this is my first proper sit-down ceremony, like ceremonial dose, drop-in connection with it. And I have laid out my altar space and candles and incense and flowers and crystals and all of it. And I've got this beautiful big cup, and yeah, I was just sitting here tuning in with cacao and with this particular cacao and listening to some beautiful music, and it put me in such a soft, receptive space. I feel very relaxed, as you can maybe hear in my voice. A little croaky, my voice, maybe from just dropping deeply into meditation, and now I'm like coming out of it to speak. And it's beautiful to feel this sensation of being very calm. My body is tingling and humming a little bit in a gentle way. And yeah, I'm just in love with this cacao. And I've been excited to sit down and share it with you, share some stories with you, because this is episode 20 of Loved by Cacao. And I feel very excited that it's episode 20. It feels like a beautiful milestone. I heard recently that only a small percentage of podcasts make it past episode 20, like new podcasts that start up. So I'm feeling happy that we're here. This is something that I really didn't know where it was going to go when I started it. So it's exciting to be here. And if you're new here, welcome. Welcome to Loved by Cacao. Welcome to this world of the voices of cacao, where we share from the heart of cacao. We share stories about cacao. And my name is Pania, and I started this podcast because I love cacao. It's one of my greatest passions, and I find it to be one of the most beautiful ways to heal and bring joy and compassion and love into our lives. So I was inspired to create this podcast almost a year ago because I wanted to share the stories, and I wanted to continue learning more and more about this beloved plant. And it's such a vast world. There's so many people now working with cacao, and there's so much going on out there, and and also in here in my own heart in terms of cacao. So this is my way of bridging the two, and I'm really, really grateful that you're here with me. And to those of you who've been listening from the start, there's a few of you I know who have been here right from the very first episode, and I'm super grateful to have you here. Like, just, it warms my heart so much, and I love hearing from some of you occasionally, hearing that you're enjoying the episodes and what you take away from them, and yeah, it's just really, really special. So this is like a really big, slow, ongoing, ceremonial conversation. I kind of feel like this podcast is a big container dedicated to cacao, and it's ongoing, and every time I record an episode, either solo or with a guest, it's like I step into that container, or this container, I step into this field, and it kind of feels like time stops almost. It feels timeless. I feel like I'm in the frequency of all the different conversations that have been had and that will be had, and it's a beautiful, beautiful place to be. So yeah, I just really love having you along, and I hope that more and more people will tune in and listen, because this is a beautiful conversation. Cacao is a plant that can connect us so much with each other as well as with our own hearts. And I'm so grateful for the connections that have come through already. Like, I've met some beautiful people through this podcast. I've been able to connect with some really wonderful people who I probably otherwise wouldn't have spoken with. And I've deepened connections with people I already knew, and I know that's just going to continue. So it's really exciting to me, and it's like a testament to how cacao creates these webs of connection. And I know it's not just me at all. It's like so many people I speak to say that cacao brings so much connection and love into their lives through connecting with other cacao lovers. And you know, we all know this frequency of collaboration that cacao brings, and so it's really beautiful to step into it, because that's what life is all about, isn't it? Connection, love, creating a sense of community. And I'm so, so grateful for it. It's really brought a lot of love into my life in a different way, and a deeper sense of connection that I think maybe I was lacking a little bit before I started this podcast. And yeah, I just love it. So that's my little piece on gratitude on this podcast. And I'd like to share a little bit more about this cacao that I'm drinking, and then I think I'm going to get a little bit personal today. It feels like cacao has been wanting me to share some of my own stories and a bit more of myself, now that we're up to episode 20. And I've shared a little bit of my story, mainly in relation to cacao, but I haven't shared a lot about my life, or yeah, I just feel that it's time to maybe go a little deeper. I feel like cacao is asking me to. But I did want to tell you a bit more about this amazing Owako cacao first. I'm a little bit sad that I've finished the cup already. I may have to go and get some more because it's just too good. And, you know, I try to be like satisfied with what I drink when it comes to cacao, and just be like, okay, that's enough, I've had enough. But sometimes it's like, oh, it's just so good, I want some more. And that's how I feel about the Owako. It's a beautiful, beautiful experience. It is a very special cacao, which you can learn more about through the Cacao Drinking Chocolate website. There's a whole beautiful story behind how Mackenzie of Cacao Drinking Chocolate connected with this tribe in Colombia who work with this particular cacao, and they're very, very intentional about the way that they work with it. And to me, it just has such a high frequency of love and care. I can feel it when I'm drinking it. And the first time I had it, which was back in February with Mackenzie, the word that came to me straight away was pristine. It just feels so pure and pristine, and yeah, it's a cacao that has quite a fruity kind of flavour and more sour notes. Like, for example, the Guatemalan cacaos are often more bitter and earthy, and this one, and I find the cacao that comes from Peru as well, is often more like fruity and sour, and it's kind of got a lighter quality in the mouth. And in some ways I think that translates into how it makes me feel as well. There's like a lightness to it. There's a lightness, but it's still really powerful. And I feel like it's lifting me up, but it's also bringing me right down into my heart. So there's like this energy flow kind of going up and down. Yeah, it feels very joyful but calm at the same time. It's very, very nice. So I highly recommend this one. And also what's cool is if you're in New Zealand, there is now a cacao drinking chocolate warehouse in Auckland. So if you're ordering this cacao in New Zealand, it comes from Auckland, so we don't have to get it from Australia anymore. So we save on shipping costs. So big thanks to Mackenzie for going to all the effort to set that up. It wasn't until that opened that we were able to get this Arawaco cacao and also Nana Marina's cacao, which comes from Guatemala. We weren't able to get those previously. And there's another one, Criollo cacao, which is also from Guatemala. So it's really exciting that Mackenzie opened the warehouse, and if you go on the website, it'll take you to the New Zealand Australia website, and it will automatically send from the Auckland warehouse. So yeah, that's why it took me a little while to get this one, because I was waiting for the warehouse to open, and then I was waiting until I had a good address to have it sent to, and I'm so excited that it actually came. And the reason I had to wait for an address for it to come to is because I have been moving around a lot, as usual. I am quite nomadic. If you don't already know, I live in my motorhome quite a bit of the year, especially over the summer, with my partner Alex and his van, and we travel a lot, but we also house sit a lot, especially in the cooler months, which we're in now. So we are house sitting at the moment, and we're very lucky this year because we've secured a house sit which is pretty much for the whole winter and into spring. So we're going to be able to be settled in one place for the cooler months, and I'm really looking forward to that stability, and I'm looking forward to not having to think about where we're going and where we're staying and all of that, because I really want to focus much more on Loved by Cacao, and I have so many offers that I want to bring out this year in relation to it, and yeah, beautiful ways that you can work with me and things that I'd like to create. And yeah, there's a lot that is brewing, and I just need the dedicated, stable sort of place to make it all happen. The other thing that I'm loving about these cooler seasons is having a really hot cacao and just making it like super cozy, snuggling up with a blanket. I did that last night actually. I made a really gentle one because it was evening, and I put on my friend's relaxing cacao journey. My friend Kamal, who actually made the music for Loved by Cacao, he has a beautiful relaxing cacao journey that's about half an hour long, and I put that on and sipped on my very gentle cacao and just snuggled up in a blanket and listened to the journey, and it was super lovely. So I'm going to have to put that in the show notes too, so that you can check it out, because it's really nice. Well, it's evening now. The tuis outside are singing their evening song. The light is going down and the candlelight is getting brighter. And I said I would share some stories about myself. And just to pause in between everything else that I just said and the stories, I mentioned that I'm in a gentle space, and I'd like to share a poem with you, which I wrote last year. I feel like it's a good introduction to the stories that I want to share with you today. So thank you for being here and listening to everything I said up until now. I will share this poem now to bring us into the next phase of this episode. So let's just take a little breath and come into the moment more deeply again. This is called Softness Rising. There is a softness inside of me that is afraid to be seen. But I don't want to live in a world where softness is squashed down. And so I let her rise like homemade sourdough. But I do not leave her on the bench unattended. Oh no, I warm her with whispers of love until she is ready to face those hot flames of the world. They may bake a golden crisp on her edges, but she will not be burnt. She will maintain her gentle yield. It will be delicious, and it will pave the way for more softness. So on that note, there are stories inside of me that wish to be shared, and there's part of me that is nervous to share, not because it's anything particularly crazy, but just sharing of myself feels vulnerable. And like that poem, I don't want to live in a world where our stories are squashed down and where we don't feel safe to share them. And I want to be able to speak freely and for everyone else to be able to do the same. And there's something beautiful about sharing our stories, sharing who we are. And this is one of the reasons that I started this podcast, because I want to hear people's stories and I want to share my own. And if I'm holding space for this platform where people share their stories, it's only fair that I share some of mine too. And they do want to be shared. I know that so many of you probably know that feeling of there's these things inside that want to come out, and oftentimes we hold ourselves back. And I know I held myself back for many, many years. And creating this podcast has been a part of me not holding myself back anymore, a part of me letting the softness rise like the sourdough bread, letting it come up and out and be seen and be delicious. So this is me practicing that, and my intentions for sharing my stories are multifaceted. It's partly that, it's partly giving myself permission to speak and use my voice. It's partly giving others the same permission. It's also related to Cacao in many ways, because Cacao has been one of my greatest allies in allowing myself to feel the love that I've needed, to be able to have the courage to share my voice. And I haven't always had courage to share my voice. I haven't always had the greatest self-worth or self-trust, and I've often had times where I felt really blocked up and unable to express myself. In fact, when I was younger, I really had a lot of challenges with self-expression. I didn't know how to express myself, and it's been an interesting journey of learning. And like I said, creating this podcast has been a big part of that. And I was already learning a lot about self-expression, but I think that this has just taken it to another level. And I actually have the book Big Magic sitting right next to me by Elizabeth Gilbert. It's Big Magic, Creative Living Beyond Fear. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend it. It's a great book. I'll probably speak about it again on this podcast, but that was something that really helped me, have the courage to create. So anyway, my intentions for sharing are around leaning into that courage, and I know that whenever I sit with Cacao, it's like I'm in this safe container, like I can feel the bubble of Cacao around me, holding me in this container that we've created together, in this safe space where I feel like I am held, and I'm with God, I'm with Cacao, I'm with the light of the candle, and I'm with you, the beautiful people listening, you beautiful souls who will listen to this at a different time, but also in the now, because time doesn't really exist. So I'm in this kind of bubble that I've created here with Cacao, and Cacao can hold us in a space where we can create things that otherwise might feel hard, or like harder, because it's not necessarily easy for me to sit down and talk about myself, and I'm probably still avoiding it because I think I'm talking in circles even now, but I'll get there, I promise. But I just wanted to say my intentions first, that it's an example of how Cacao can hold us in a container so that we can create the things we want to create with more ease and more flow and more love and more trust. And a big part of that is the getting out of the head and into the heart, because earlier today I was thinking about the things that I might want to speak about, and the thinking about it makes it go round and round in circles, and it doesn't feel easy. It feels challenging and confusing. But when I sit with Cacao as I have, and I drop down into the heart, like I'm not really in my head right now, I'm just being and speaking. So I wanted to share from my heart, from myself, as an example of that. And also because recently I've been working with a friend of mine we've created a kind of a Cacao container together, which is ongoing. And he's quite new to Cacao. And I've been mentoring him through working with Cacao and bringing this beautiful plant medicine into his life and understanding how to work with it, and also how to sit with himself, with his emotion, and just be more present with the medicine, with the magic, with this heart connection. And at first he found it challenging, and he asked me if I had ever found it challenging as well. And I was like, of course I've found this challenging. And he wanted to know more, and I told him a bit about that, and he said, I've never really heard anyone say that before. And I just thought, wow, that's kind of interesting that he can be on the spiritual journey and he's never really heard someone talk about how it hasn't always been easy for them. And what I mean by that is, like, sometimes it's easy to look at other people and go, oh, they get it, they understand something, they're further along the path than I am. How come everyone else can feel something and I can't? Or like, how come they're all talking about this stuff that I don't understand? And it can seem like other people get it when we don't. And he hadn't really heard anyone speak about that. And so I shared a little bit about my story, and I thought, well, I need to share this on the podcast as well, because perhaps it will help other people. And I think it's beneficial to know that people who seem like they maybe get something, I mean, I'm not saying that, I'm any kind of enlightened being or anything. There's a lot that I'm still learning, but I understand much more how to tap into the spirit realms, the plant realms, the realm of the heart, light, angelic realms, different frequencies, energies, presence, joy, cacao, obviously, all these things that I didn't used to find easy, and it might seem like it's natural for me to someone watching from the outside, but hasn't always been that way. So how did I get here? Well, let's see. It's interesting for me to reflect on too, because at this point I feel like cacao has always been a part of my life, and working with energy has always been a part of my life. But there were times where it didn't make any sense to me. So I grew up with quite alternative parents. My mum was a beautiful, beautiful soul. She's not alive anymore. She passed away in 2003 when I was only 21, which in itself was a huge journey for me and has been a huge journey. It has been a very spiritual journey, a very challenging journey at times, and it's taught me a lot, really a lot. And she's been my angel in so many ways. She's now my angel from the angelic realms, from the spirit realms, and I feel her with me often. But as a mum, she was definitely an angel as well. She was an amazing, loving mum, and I was perplexed by her at times though, because she was someone who tried all sorts of different things in the spiritual world. And she raised my brother and I vegetarian, a little bit hippie. We used to go to meditation retreats, and I grew up watching my parents meditate, and we ate food that was different to our friends, and I often felt like we were the weirdos, like we were the kind of the odd ones out, and at times it did make me feel very self-conscious and very different to my peers, which was, it can be challenging when you're a kid, or especially as a teenager. And I didn't really understand what my mum was up to half the time. So in many ways I grew up quite open, and like I was exposed to a lot of these different things. I was exposed to going to meditation retreats, and I remember watching my parents meditate in a group. We'd go along to, they were part of the Self-Realization Fellowship, which was started by Paramahansa Yogananda, and she would take me along even at a really young age, and I would just be walking around the room watching all the adults meditate. And I thought it was very strange. I was like, what are they all doing? But then I got used to it, and I just thought it was something that adults did. And we would go to day meditations and also retreats where we'd stay for several days. We had things in our house like essential oils and alternative remedies. She was really into naturopathy and homeopathy, and if I was sick she would usually take me to a naturopath first before a doctor, and sometimes that was great. I remember as a teen one time having a really sore throat, like really bad, and I was in the choir at school, and we were about to go on a choir trip, and I was like, Mom, I don't know if I'll be able to sing on this trip because my throat is so sore. It's really, really bad. And she took me to a naturopath who gave me a whole lot of remedies, which I took for about, I think only just like 1 or 2 days. And I was completely clear of any kind of sickness after that. Like my throat healed completely. And I remember being so surprised. Like I didn't really believe that it could heal because it was so painful. And whatever that naturopath gave me, it worked. So we did things a little bit differently from my peers, as I said, and I also witnessed my mum try lots of different spirituality. For a while I thought she was Buddhist, and the teachings she would follow were more, well, first I guess there was the Self-Realization Fellowship, and then she was more involved in Buddhism, and later on she followed various different teachers, and to the point where later in her life, like towards the end of her life, she actually became very interested in Jesus and spoke about Jesus quite a bit, and I just didn't understand it. I was really confused by her shifts in spirituality, and I didn't really know what was true. And I think because I'd mainly witnessed her involved in Buddhism. When right towards the end she started speaking about Jesus, I kind of thought she was losing her mind a little bit. And even, this is a very intimate and sacred part of the story, I feel. My heart is like, ooh, this one's beautiful and moving. And I almost feel like it's a little too sacred to share here, but it's wanting to be, okay, yep, it wants to be shared. I can feel the go ahead. So my mum was in the hospice for the last couple of months of her life, and I remember a couple of weeks before she died, or maybe only a week, she said to me one day, I went in every day to see her, and one day I went in and she was kind of elated. She had this joyful energy, and she said to me, Jesus came. He put his hands on my shoulders. He put his hands on my shoulders. And she was just so, so happy about it. And I was only 21. I didn't know what I really believed in spiritually because, I'd had this mishmash upbringing. And all of a sudden my Buddhist mum is talking about Jesus, and I'm just like, okay, mum, yep. And by this stage she also was having morphine, and I was like, I don't know if this is just the morphine talking, and part of me believed her, and I wanted to believe her. And in many ways I was very open-minded, but I also was like, I just don't really understand what's going on here. I'm just going to smile and nod, and I'm just happy that she feels happy, And now where I'm at in my journey, 20-something years later, I really feel what she felt. I've had moments of feeling intense healing as well from the Ascended Masters, from Jesus, Mary Magdalene, the Great Mother. It's obviously not just about Cacao for me, the Great Father, and I understand so much more the seeking that my mum was doing, the spiritual seeking, because of course with that mishmash of spirituality that I grew up with, it launched me into being a seeker myself, and I had to find out what was true for me. And it's been very confusing at times. So even though I was raised differently, I was raised quite open-minded, I did go through a phase of skepticism, which I think is, it's kind of like we want to rebel a little against our parents growing up, and I probably discounted a lot of the stuff that they did. And my dad was also very spiritual and still is. He and I have great spiritual chats these days. It's really nice. We don't always agree on things, but a lot of the time we do, and yeah, it's beautiful. And I didn't used to be able to talk about these things with him because I would reject a lot of what my parents said because I needed to figure it out for myself. They confused me a little bit. I had to go and sort it all out. And that's the thing though, isn't it? We have to find our own way. And so my travels have been a big part of that, and my seeking, and Cacao has been a big part of that, because I think that I maybe closed myself off to a lot of things. I became skeptical due to, I think I'd just been exposed to so many things that I kind of had to shut down for a little while. And a part of me just wanted the safety of living a simple life with a house and a dog and a husband and a garden, and not having to think about all that bigger stuff. And I think too, after my mum died, for a while I was quite spiritually heightened in some ways because it was such a huge experience. And a couple years later, in my 20s, I went and walked the Camino de Santiago in Spain. And that was a really beautiful pilgrimage of letting go of a lot of the grief around her death. And in a way, that's a whole other story in itself. But that was very, very freeing. And I did let go of a lot then. But I think somehow in my 30s, I just kind of wanted things to be simple. And so I tried to have a marriage and a house and a garden and a little business and a dog. And I loved my dog. I'm glad I had my dog. But all of that came crumbling down. It wasn't ultimately my soul's purpose. And I think I'd been kind of pushing away my spiritual side a little bit. And so when that all crumbled, I had to go seeking again. I was forced to, They say that if we don't find our true selves, if we don't find a way to remember who we really are, life will continue to find ways to remind us. And so I was forced to go on a journey because I no longer had my home and my marriage and my little business at the time, and I even had to leave my dog for a while. All of that was incredibly painful. I was very, very lost and confused and very disconnected from myself, from God. I just didn't really know my way, and all I knew was that I wanted to travel. And oftentimes that has been all I've known. Like I remember when I finished high school, all my friends were heading off to university, and I was like, I have no clue what I want to do with my life. All I know is I want to travel. And I didn't understand how other people knew what they wanted to study. I was like, how can you choose? I don't know yet. And I mean, working with Cacao, having a podcast, it wasn't an option then. All I knew was I wanted to travel, and that's what I did in my 20s. And then again, when I traveled for some time, and then I traveled more after my mum passed, and then after my marriage broke down as well. I was like, what else am I going to do? I don't know. The only answer right now is to go traveling. And thank goodness I've been blessed enough to be able to do that each time. And so this time, after the marriage, that ended up being a whole big journey, which I have spoken a little bit about in my the episode where I share my Cacao story. I think it's episode 3. And I went on this whole pilgrimage to find out to see where I was born in the United States, because we came to New Zealand when I was just 6 months old. And then I went and spent a lot of time in Central America, and that's where I really connected again with myself. And I had to move through a lot of pain and grief and confusion, and it was a big one. And so through a lot of that, I've definitely had many, many moments of feeling like other people seem to get it and I don't. And I want to share this in case you ever feel like this. I know that a lot of people go through this, especially maybe when we start out on a spiritual journey, or even with business, if people are starting a business, or if we're in a place where we feel a bit lost and it seems like everyone else has it together. I feel you. I've been there so many times. And it's funny because when I look back, it's like when I was a kid, I felt like we were the odd ones out because we were kind of a bit hippie and a bit spiritual and alternative. I think I had one vegetarian friend, and everybody else thought it was super weird that I was vegetarian. And, I felt like everyone else was leading a different life. Not that I necessarily wanted their life, but I just felt separated somehow. But I was quite open-minded to spirituality. And then somehow in my late 20s maybe, I started to feel like a lot of other people understood a lot of spiritual concepts much more than I did, and I felt really behind. And again in my 30s, when I started to travel after my marriage ended, I realized that I'd squashed a lot of that away, and I started to meet all these different people who were on all these different paths, and I just felt like, wow, everyone else is so much more advanced than me, and they understand it all a lot more. And there's I think it was interesting to have grown up in a spiritual household, and then all of a sudden in my 30s I saw spirituality become really trendy. All of a sudden it seemed like everyone's getting into being vegetarian or vegan and doing yoga and doing all these different things, which, yoga was another thing that my mum used to take me to when I was a teenager. And so I'd grown up with that, but suddenly I felt like everyone else had leapt way ahead of me, and I didn't get it anymore in a way. I was like, how come I grew up feeling kind of like I understood this stuff, and now I feel like I'm being left behind? It's like everybody took huge leaps. And so I was a bit lost, and I felt as well like spirituality was so cool all of a sudden, and it felt like I was almost like I was in high school and I was not in the cool club anymore. And I didn't, that whole thing of like spirituality becoming trendy, and I didn't have the right clothes anymore, and I was like too mainstream to fit in. So I'd grown up feeling like I was too alternative, and all of a sudden I felt like I was an adult where I was too normal. So a lot of my life I have not known where I fit in. Now that I've learned about my human design, a lot of it makes a lot of sense. I'm a manifestor, and we're not made to fit in, so it's okay. Like I've made a lot of peace with that feeling of not fitting in or not knowing where I fit in, but it came with a lot of challenges around self-worth, because when we don't feel connected, part of community, when we don't know where our place is, it's hard to have good self-worth and self-trust and to know how to express ourselves and be safe to be seen in the world. So it's been a big journey for me of reclaiming my self-worth, reclaiming my sense of safety, and a lot of that has been through working with Cacao. I think a lot of the reclamation has also been through just getting older and getting to a point in my life where I've been through so many different experiences that it's like I don't have to question myself so much anymore, because it's like, oh wow, okay, I've been through that, I get it, and I know what it's like to be in a really dark place. I know what it's like to go through intense grief. I know what it's like to have everything fall apart and think that I'm never going to get back on track, and to feel completely lost. And I know what it's like to spend years and years trying to figure out where home is and who my people are and where I belong. And I think I'm finally at a point where a lot of that, it doesn't feel so hard anymore. Sure, I still have moments of like, where am I meant to be, or moments of grief, but because I've been through so much, it's like, oh yeah, I know that I can get through it. I think that's really the key, is that I know I went through a lot of that stuff and I didn't die. And that sounds over the top, but quite honestly, one of my biggest fears in life when I was younger was the fear of divorce. It really was, because I saw my parents divorce when I was quite young. They separated, got back together, separated again. It was a whole thing, and then they divorced, and my dad moved away, and I had that abandonment wound of dad moving away, leaving. I didn't understand, and I witnessed the pain that my mum was in and the pain that our family was in. And so I was so afraid to get married because I was so afraid of divorce. And even when the marriage wasn't going well, I was still so afraid of divorce that I pushed to keep it together. And it was super, super scary to actually go through my biggest fear. Like, I remember one day in the midst of it, just lying on the bed and actually feeling like I was falling into a black hole. Like, really, really feeling myself just falling. I can feel it in my body as I'm saying that. Everything felt very dark, and I was so afraid. And that sensation was extremely intense. And I'm so, so grateful to the people who were in my life at that time who supported me. I had a wonderful mentor, friend, who supported me so much and helped me remember that I was strong enough to get through it. And I had a lot of friends and family who were supporting me, and I got through it. And sometime later I realized, like, I've lived through my greatest fear. If I can live through my greatest fear, then I can live through anything. So actually it was very, very freeing. And honestly, I'm grateful I had that experience. It taught me a lot. It really taught me a lot. And it taught me a lot about fear. And the subject of fear is something I'd love to delve into more in another episode perhaps, because I find it really fascinating how often fear is really just in our minds. And I've had so many examples of that. And it's something I love about working with Cacao, because I find that Cacao gives me courage. And it also gives us perspective. When you get out of your mind and into the heart, it's like you realize that the things that you're afraid of are not really real, or you don't even think about them anymore, because the fear really, it doesn't live in the heart. So if you can drop into your heart, the fear doesn't come with you. And yeah, this is why Cacao is such a great ally for shifting into living a more courageous, connected, and loving life. And those things can seem really scary when we're in a place of self-doubt or fear. And I know that I've been in places where I just doubted myself so much because I just didn't know where my place was or what I was meant to be doing. And it's just been through following one step at a time and learning to trust the journey and to trust life again. You know, those times when it feels like life is so mean to us and just tears everything apart. And we have to learn to trust that happened for a reason, or even if not for a reason, that even despite it happening, that we can trust again. And we are allowed to feel joy again, even if we've been through so much pain. And this is another beautiful thing that I love about working with Cacao. It's like she shows us that it doesn't matter how much crap we've been through, how much pain we've been through, we can have joy again. We can be safe to be in our joy. And Cacao has brought me so much joy that I've been so grateful to receive. Yeah. And I can actually pinpoint when Cacao truly started to support me in returning to self-love and self-worth. I mean, it happened slowly for me, and again, I've shared some of this in episode 3, my story with Cacao, my journey of just very gradually being brought into the world of cacao, first through working with it as a food, and then being thrown out into the world after everything fell apart to go and travel and end up in Guatemala through a whole series of events, and then experiencing my first cacao ceremony. But something that really stands out in my mind that I feel is related to this conversation is after my first cacao ceremony, I was booked to go on retreat for a month, and I was staying in a little cabin by myself, although at a retreat centre where I was being fed 3 meals a day and there were people around, but I was committed to being pretty much by myself, mainly in silence, in this cabin for a month, which looked out at the beautiful, beautiful lake. And I was a little bit nervous about going into this space of retreat, but also it was at a time when I was so exhausted. I'd been through a lot of heartbreak. Like I mentioned, I had to leave my business, house, marriage, dog, everything, and I was really heartbroken, and I had a roller coaster few months after that as well. Pretty much that whole year, this was 2016, that whole year was just crazy, crazy, crazy. And you know, they say that when God comes into our lives, everything that's standing in the way has to fall apart. And that's totally how it felt. It was like a year of just everything falling apart in order to bring me to more of myself. But it was so painful in the process. And I was so tired once I got to this retreat centre. I was just exhausted and so heartbroken. And a part of me really was looking forward to being in a cabin all by myself where I didn't have to talk to anybody. This is like total medicine for a manifestor, like not having to talk to anyone, in a place of total peace. No schedule, nothing that I had to do, just me and life and a space to rest and be and let everything go and have no pressure. And it's one of the most healing things I've ever done in my life. But I also was a little nervous because I had to just be with myself. I had no internet. I think I only had a couple of books, and I did let myself read and write a bit, and I had some colouring pencils and like a meditation mandala kind of book to colour in. But really I was just resting, taking little walks around, being very gentle with myself, doing some yoga, some meditation, but I didn't have a schedule. I was just letting myself flow each day. But I still had to just be with myself, and that wasn't always easy. And thankfully, I had the foresight to bring some things with me that were really beneficial for self-care. And I think one of the most potent parts about that month is that I really loved on myself. And I loved on myself with nourishment. So I had ginger tea every day. I would brew up a pot. I had a little tiny kitchen in the cabin, and I'd brew up ginger tea every day, and I was oiling my skin every day. I would do like face masks, and I was just eating beautiful food that they were giving me at the retreat centre, but really simple food, but healing. And I also took some cacao with me, because just before I went into the retreat, I had 2 cacao ceremonies with Keith of Keith's Cacao, and it was amazing timing that I got to go and sit with him right beforehand. So I went in with this like beautiful energy from him and from the cacao, and I purchased some of his cacao to take with me. I think I had a block of pure cacao, and I knew that the food might be quite simple on the retreat, and so I took a few bliss balls and a few macadamia nuts, and I think maybe 2 of Keith's cacao cookies. So they were like my little treats. But every day I would have either a little bit of pure cacao or one of the cacao treats. And it was like just my little moment of being with cacao each day. And honestly, I didn't even really understand what that was doing for me at the time. But looking back, I can see like, I was in such a space of healing and needing healing, needing love. And cacao was working on me, because it wasn't until I had got to Lake Atitlan in Guatemala, where that retreat center was and where Keith lived, it wasn't until I got there that I'd actually ever had pure cacao before. I'd only been having cacao powder. And so it was almost like, without even realizing, I put myself into a little cacao portal. And I would have my little moment of cacao each day. I think sometimes I was even just eating the cacao, or I would make a little cup of it, and I didn't kind of realize how potent that was. But the love that came to me during that retreat was just incredible. And I honestly went in feeling so much more broken than I've maybe ever felt in my life. And I came out absolutely glowing. I was just so light, and I felt so much more free and peaceful. It's like I literally shed weight physically and also like emotionally and spiritually. And some friends that I met beforehand noticed the difference and were like, wow, you look so great, and you're shining, you're glowing. And I really felt it. And it was a whole combination of things, but I really think it's quite special that I had Cacao with me at that time, because she was holding me in this space of love when I really needed it. I was so heartbroken, and Cacao just came racing in saying, I've got you. It's okay, I've got you. And I don't think I really realized, but looking back, I have so much gratitude, and it's like, it gives this just sense of like, oh, it's so moving and touching to know that the spirit of Cacao was with me in that space when I really needed her. Even if I didn't fully grasp that at the time, I get it now, and I'm so grateful. So we don't always understand what's going on in the moment, and there's often a lot going on in the background that we might not see. And there's something that I love to think about, a concept that I got from author and podcaster Rob Bell. I've been listening to his podcast since actually 2016. I think that's when he started it. I love his podcast, and he often talks about how there's so much more going on here. And he says, you know, anytime we're perplexed, or if we don't understand a situation, or if someone seems to be acting off, or, you know, just even in the simplest situations, we can remind ourselves there's so much more going on here. There's so much more going on here, because there's always a lot more behind the scenes that we don't see, or, you know, a narrow tunnel vision that we sometimes have, especially if we're caught up in the mind. It doesn't see the bigger picture necessarily, or we don't necessarily always see the way that life is working for us. And I think that that's a beautiful example of that, the way that we can look back and be like, life was really holding me so much more in that situation than I even realized at the time. And Cacao was such a gift and continues to be. And I'm so grateful. And so I wanted to share these stories as examples of how it really is a journey, and coming to a place of self-trust and self-worth and feeling safe to express ourselves. It doesn't come easy to everyone, and just because other people might seem like they've got it, it doesn't necessarily mean that they were born that way. Or maybe they were, but they forgot, and then they had to come back to it again. And we're never really behind. We can always return to self-trust and our own authentic nature. And I think it takes little steps sometimes, and then the big leaps also happen. And I'm really, really grateful that now I'm in a place where I feel that I can sit down and record myself speaking, knowing that I intend to share it with people who I might not even know, who might listen to it. I won't even know who listens to it. And that used to be really scary, like really scary. The thought of putting something out into the world that people might listen to, oh my God, so scary. Especially sharing stories about myself, because the fear of judgment is real. Or it's real now, but it used to be even more real. I used to be so afraid of being judged. And yeah, now it's just like, well, if people judge me, that's okay. That's their stuff. And I think it has to do with judging myself a lot less too. And just letting myself be myself, And this is another reason I love Cacao, because it helps me get into a space where I can just free flow with my speaking. I'm not really judging what I'm saying as I speak. And that's been a challenge as well through my life, where I've tended to filter myself. I filter my thoughts as I speak them, or I'll take a long time to say things because I'm like filtering or processing as I speak, just in case I'm saying the wrong thing. And that's come from a fear of judgment and from people pleasing. But with Cacao, it's like you can get into that flow state where you don't even care about that stuff. And it's really freeing. It's really, really freeing. So these are my stories for now. There's probably a lot more that I could share, but this is a good start, and I'm glad that I've started, because what you've just witnessed, if you're still here with me, if you've made it this far, thank you for sticking with me and listening. What you've just witnessed is me unlayering another level of feeling free to speak and share my story, because this is another reason actually that I decided to do this episode, is that for the last few years I've found it a little bit more challenging to share my personal stories online. And that's been for a couple of reasons. One being that I think that I've discovered so much more depth in life and in myself in the last few years that I don't always know how to articulate it. And I've been going through a little bit of a journey of deeper discovery, and I think a lot of the time, I just haven't had the words for it. And when things feel really huge, like the idea of sitting down and sharing my parts of my life story, it's like, well, there's so much. Where does one even start? And a lot of the time I feel like there's so much in me that wants to be shared that I kind of freeze, because I don't know how to share it and how to properly articulate context and like really get the stories across so that they're understood. And so a lot of the time I just haven't shared. And I've been a lot quieter on social media the last few years than I used to be. When I was traveling a lot, and even before my travels, I used to share stuff all the time on social media. And it used to be really easeful, especially with travel, because it's just like you share travel stories, it's really fun. And I was quite engaged. But I went through a bit of a dark night of the soul, especially around COVID times, as I think a lot of us did. And I discovered even deeper darkness and depths and a lot of just feeling like I didn't really know what was real anymore for a while. I felt like I lost my voice for quite some time. And it's taken, like in 2016 when my life fell apart, that was a big dark night of the soul experience. But during COVID, I had another one, and it's taken some time for me to get my voice back again. I think a lot of people had the experience of losing their voice in that time and losing a sense of freedom to self-express. And so I haven't really found my way in terms of sharing on social media. And I thought, hey, why not just sit down and chat on the podcast? Because for me, in some ways, it's easier just to speak it all out, to try and break it down into like little posts that you pop on Instagram or Facebook. It's just so minimalist, and that's not always easy when there's like this huge inner world to try to convey. And I know that we're all experiencing these huge inner worlds. And sometimes when someone asks, how are you? It's like, how do I even respond to that? There's so much to share, and we all have this vastness inside of us. And I think that's why it's scary sometimes to go there, and that's why people can get blocked sometimes around feeling their emotion, because there's so much to explore. The inner world is rich, it's vast, and it can seem really scary at times. And I know that I used to avoid it a lot, and now it's got to a place where it's actually fascinating to go there and to uncover what's really moving inside. And every day it's different. And so I think I'm coming to a close, and I'm just so grateful that you're here with me and that I can have this platform. I mean, how amazing that we live in this modern world where we can create things and put them out there, and we didn't used to be able to do that, so not in such an easeful way. So I'm grateful for this platform. I'm grateful for you listening. I'm grateful for cacao. If you've been drinking cacao with me, blessings on your heart, and well, either way, blessings on your heart. And let's just close out with a couple of breaths of gratitude. Thank you for your tuning in, your connection. My heart sends a lot of love and gratitude to your heart. Thank you for beautiful cacao, creating these portals we can drop into to connect with this beautiful field of love. Thank you to the nourishment of cacao. And thank you for these bodies that we're in that allow us to have all these experiences, which are challenging and beautiful, and that's life, isn't it? Apparently it's what we came here for, so let's do our best to make the most of it. Let's do our best to enjoy all of it. And yeah, if you're in a lot of pain right now and that sounds unrealistic, I totally hear you, because I still go there sometimes. And I think the key is to remember that the joy is still available and that it will come back. It always does. And it's a dance. It's a dance between all the different experiences of being a human, but also being a spiritual being in a human body. And thank God we have cacao, because it really, really, really helps with all of it. So may you have joy, even in amongst pain, and may you have love, and may you feel loved, and may you have peace. I'm sending you a lot of love from my heart, and I'm wishing you a beautiful, beautiful rest of your day. Take care, and thank you again for being here. Thank you for opening your heart here and listening today. Please subscribe to keep getting episodes in Apple, Spotify, or YouTube. And please share this podcast with your cacao-loving friends. You can follow us on Instagram at lovedbycacao. Please take care of your heart, and may you feel loved.